In this time-lapse video, I am going to complete the lower helixes that take the staging loop up from the lower staging yard to the middle level junction. The first thing I'm doing is working out exactly how high the spacers need to be to separate the two levels. It's normally 3.5 inches, but I wanted to make sure that it was exactly that before I cut them. And indeed, it did turn out that it needs to be exactly 3.5 inches, and I already had some strips cut. So here they are now on the table saw. I'm just making sure that there's no variation in the width all the way along before chopping them up into blocks on the miter saw. I'm doing a test fit now just to make sure that the sub roadbed is going to fit before going around and gluing a whole lot of those spacer blocks in place. First on the near helix and then on the far one. I had one more half lap of sub roadbed available and I elected to use that on the near helix. But before I installed that, I went back to the far helix and I installed the sub roadbed around 3/4 of a lap. I don't recall why I left the front one unfinished and went to the back one. There had to have been a reason for it, but it was several months ago and I don't remember why it was. And when I got to the first splice plate, I took the precaution of making sure that the double stacks that the client wanted to run would indeed fit under it. And it's a good job I checked because the clearance was insufficient by about 1/16 of an inch. So I had to come up with a different plan. I explained that fully in the regular series of videos. But with that sorted out, I can continue around the second lap of the helix with the sure knowledge that everything that the client wants to run is actually going to fit through it. And now I'm coming back to do all those same steps in the front helix. You can see I'm using clamps to hold everything into position. That's because the lower ends of the spacer blocks are glued only, they're not screwed. When I got to the upper helix, I did find a way of being able to remove the clamps immediately. But we'll see that in a later video. Now I'm ripping door skin plywood to make the fences that go around both sides of the helix to stop any possibility of trains falling off if they derail. And you can see I'm gluing those and attaching them with an air stapler. On the outside pieces, I don't put glue along the whole length at first. I just start with half the length and then get that staple in place before putting glue on the rest of it. I find I drip less that way. And once it's stapled in place, I go around making sure that there's no staples that have bananaed through the side. And if they have, I go around breaking off the pair of pliers. Then I give the edges a quick sanding and I go around and make sure there's a continuous bead of glue between the layers because I want it properly stuck. Now you can see I've taken the roll of roadbed. I'm cutting strips for both helixes and they go down fairly easily. Now I'm pre-curving some micro-engineering flex track. And now it's time to install it. I'm using Crafter's Pick glue, which I get at Hobby Lobby. Don't buy it at Walmart because they sell a half-size bottle for the same price. Initially I'm using my Fast Trax filing guides as weights, But once I finished on the first helix, I replaced those with bricks so that I've got the easy to use weights available for the new track lane. You may have also seen me use cans of Mountain Dew as track weights in other videos. I wasn't able to do that on this project because it was the middle of winter with the overnight temperatures dropping below freezing. I didn't want to risk coming out in the morning to find burst cans of Mountain Dew all over the place, making a big mess. Now I'm coming back and installing feeder wires on both helixes. First I poke them through the holes, then I solder the top ends. The bottom ends I will be leaving till later. And now I'm going around repeating all those same processes for the final lap of the near helix, which, as I mentioned in the other series of videos, is 2 3/4 laps instead of just 1 3/4, as is the far one. And now I had one more partial day. Just came out for a few hours to finish the front helix. See, I cut some more door skin plywood for the fences because I ran out. You may have briefly seen me chop up scrap and throw it away. Installing some more pieces of safety fence. Now the foam rubber roadbed. Now more track. And the last piece of sub roadbed on the level above. Another piece of safety fence. As you can see, helixes are basically a case of doing a little bit of each step in turn until you finish it. They're not particularly difficult to build, but they do take time and you can't rush them. You've got to make sure you do all the steps in the right order, otherwise you're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Anyway, with all those same steps repeated on the last lap of this near helix, I can finally get down on the creeper and hook up the bottom end of the feeder wires to the bus wires. And on a helix, I generally like to run the bus wires attached to the safety fence around the inside edge of one level, rather than have them underneath, because that would make the feeders from the top laps rather long, and it would just be a waste of wire. The last step in this process is to have a good cleanup so that I can get a locomotive on it and test everything. And with that done, that brings up the end of this video. You may notice that it is a lot shorter than my previous time-lapse video. I explain the full reasons for that in the description below. Feel free to read it if you're interested. But that is all for this installment. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.